Hey guys, it's Kevin again, this review for the original Season 2, Episode 16, Save My Soul. And this episode, of course, amazing episode. Do you really expect it for it to not be amazing? I mean, this season hasn't given me a single bad episode. I have yet to see a bad episode from this season, and that's fantastic because this episode was amazing, and it was definitely one of the best. It wasn't the best because I think, it was a great episode as usual. It was an amazing episode as usual, but it wasn't the best episode of the season. It still was one of the best, though. Because this episode basically dealt with Freya, and can we trust Freya? And a lot of change in this, and a lot of things changed this episode that I definitely really enjoy, and let's just get into it because I really enjoyed it. So it starts in Norway, 977 AD. Dahlia and young Freya sit around a campfire, and she encourages her to eat so she can be strong and taught how to stay young forever. And Dahlia wanted the two of them to be the strongest witches the world has ever seen. However, little Freya only wants her mother, and Dahlia tells her that her mother didn't want her and gave her away, and that she is only her family, and that she is her only family now, and that there is no greater strength. If you remember, Dahlia kidnapped Freya, because of course she took Freya from Esther, and that's basically what's going on there. So in present day, Rebekah awakens to an angry mom outside of the safe house, and Marcel urges her to stay away from the window where an angry witch mob awaits her. And hang on one second. Where an angry witch mob awaits her. So, Marcel urges her to stay away from the window. Now, of course, I was interested in seeing what was going to happen with Rebekah, because, of course, she is now possessed by Eva, by Eva Sinclair, so I was interested in seeing what exactly was going to happen to her, how she was going to be, and luckily it hasn't completely taken over her yet. She's still Rebekah, but she still is, she has it in her. So Marcel urges her to stay away from the window where an angry mob awaits her, and Rebekah is not scared of the mob, at all, and greets the mob headed by Josephine. They accuse her of attacking the two teens that were killed in last week's episode, because, of course, she killed them. And before the mob can take Rebekah away, Elijah approaches and tells them that Rebekah is in Eva's body, and Josephine gives Elijah until tomorrow to come to the bottom of the killings until they return for Eva. So I like that Elijah was honest with them because that's the truth. That's really what's going on there. So Elijah then goes to meet his brother and Klaus and tells him that Rebekah's situation has taken quite a turn because now that now she's killing people, it's obviously not a good thing, so they have to find a way to fix this. And Klaus has invited Freya to the courtyard to dispense any information she has on Dahlia that could save Hope's life. Because, of course, that's his main concern now, is to save Hope, of course. So Marcel approaches Vincent, not Finn, Vincent, because of course Finn is trapped in that bottle. So now that he's trapped in that bottle, Vincent is Vincent again. He's no longer possessed, Finn is no longer in his body, so Vincent is Vincent again. And it was kind of cool to see him, be Vincent. It was cool to see Vincent be Vincent and not be Finn, because we haven't actually seen Vincent. And I have to say, Vincent's quite a cool character, and I actually really like that they made his character a series regular, because I think that he has the potential to be a really great character on the show. So Marcel approaches Vincent, who has been keeping quite close to him, and Vincent knows exactly who Marcel is and knows that the witches want him back as well. And Vincent's enlightened to the fact that he's been possessed for 9 months, which that's as long as a pregnancy, come on. And Vincent is clearly taken back, and Marcel takes the opportunity to ask him about Eva Sinclair. However, Vincent refuses, and Marcel knows that he knows more about, Eva Sinclair, but Vincent doesn't really want to tell him anything. So, Davina is then approached by Rebekah for help, and Davina has been reading the entire spellbook since Cole's passing and hands to Rebekah to try and find some help, because, of course, Rebekah made that promise to her that she was going to help her and find a way to get Cole a new body, and she hasn't exactly kept that promise to her. So, Davina's kind of worried that it's not going to work, and I do like seeing these two work together. I definitely enjoy it, and I think it's well done. So the Michelson brothers are left living, ask Freya to begin telling them everything else she knows. And Dahlia, of course, is the most powerful witch she's ever seen. However, she's only granted 1 year in each century. I have to say, Freya's backstory, I really liked hearing about. I think one of the things that the originals does so well is tell backstories of these characters. It makes us care for them more, and I definitely really enjoyed it. So, she's the most powerful witch she has ever seen. However, she's only granted 1 year in each century, and she wants to be free of that confinement, and Freya wants nothing more than to kill her, which I found interesting. I mean, we kind of start to see that Freya could possibly not be an antagonist, rather than maybe an ally for them, and Basically, Dahlia used Freya to form a new source of power by bonding themselves, and Dahlia has become so powerful that she made examples of anyone who got in her way or threatened her, and Freya says that Dahlia has only grown stronger and will bring every ounce of power with her. So Rebekah gives Elijah a call, and when she ends it after agreeing to be with her brother Freya, she is in a world of pain and then drops to the ground. So that was kind of strange. So Haley then walks out on Aiden and Jackson, who are sparring outside, and Aiden seems as if he's only seeing through Klaus's eyes. Of course, Klaus told him that he wanted him to be the leader, that Jackson can't really be the leader anymore, and I like seeing Aiden kind of turning against Jackson. I do really like this, because they both have very different ways of thinking, and it really shows the differences between the two. So Aiden tells Jackson that things, and I like what he says to him, that things are changing, and Jackson should not show a vulnerability as an alpha, or he runs the risk of being challenged. Because, I mean, Jackson's the alpha here, and he needs to realize that there are things that are changing. He needs to step up and do something about it, because if he's not, he's very vulnerable, and vulnerability is not a good thing in this situation. So I like that Aiden told him that. So Jackson asks him if that's a threat, but Aiden simply replies that he's looking out for him, which he pretty much is. He's looking out for him, but he doesn't really tell him about what Klaus is doing and everything, probably because he wants to keep his loyalty to Klaus and everything, so I found that really interesting. So Freya then continues her story of Dahlia, who captured her and forced her as a slave, and she refused Dahlia's control and vowed to never love or bear a child that could be controlled by Dahlia the way she was, and Dahlia forced Freya into a slumber so that their power could grow, and Klaus is questioning Freya as to why she didn't commit suicide if she felt so enslaved, which I think that's a reasonable question. I mean, all the questions that Klaus is asking her, in this episode, they are pretty reasonable, and Freya reveals that she was impervious to harm and cursed for all time, and even if she wanted to, she could not end her suffering. So basically, there was nothing she could do about it. She couldn't even kill herself because she made it so she couldn't die, and I find that to be very interesting and really fucked up about Freya, but we know how fucked up the Michaelsons are, and this just adds a new layer to them. Dahlia is nothing compared to, Michael is nothing compared to Dahlia. Dahlia is by far the biggest threat they have ever had on this show, and I love it. I love seeing that. She is definitely more threatening than Esther and Michael altogether. She is the most threatening character I think we've ever seen on this show, and honestly, she's legitimately creepy. There's a scene at the end of this episode that was very creepy, and I love that. So Cammy agrees to meet with Vincent. Now, of course, this was a very awkward encounter because, of course, when Finn was Vincent, he had feelings for Cammy. So I was interested in seeing if Vincent was going to react the same way. Vincent reacts very differently here. Let me just say that. So Vincent, after drinking, hopes that he could bring some light to exactly who Eva Sinclair is. Cammy introduces herself, and Vincent tells her he doesn't care who she is. However, she will not break him, and Vincent is curious to know what she knows about Finn and Finn, and Cammy uses that as her bargaining tool to extract some more information, which is a good idea. So Rebekah awakens to a phone call from Elijah, who's completely worried, and he was expecting her hours ago. However, she was blacked out and woke up in a place, and she has no idea where she is, so that's kind of strange. I mean, she has no idea where she is and everything, and I found that to be really strange. So Jackson and Haley take over sparring duties, and she notices that he's still thinking about what Aiden said, and Jackson's troubled, and he wants the pack to know that he puts them first, because he does. Even though he cares about Haley, the pack comes first. Those are his brothers. Those are his family. And Haley's now a part of that. The thing is, though, what Jackson needs to understand is that Haley's always been a part of that. Even though she's a hybrid, her loyalty will always be with the Wolves. I've talked about this before. Yes, she's loyal to Klaus and Elijah, but she'll always be more closer with the Wolves simply because she's been with them longer, and she's been a werewolf longer than she has a hybrid, and Haley tells him that he needs to show them that he cares, and Jackson asks her about Klaus, to which she simply says she can handle Klaus, and I like that she said that. I think what she's trying to say there is that Klaus, she can understand his points, because Klaus does have very good points, and Klaus is very good at leadership, and I think she's also trying to tell him that, look, Klaus is a really good leader, and also, Klaus is great at leadership, and Jackson needs to become better at that, and she also tells him that they don't have to go about any of it alone, and she's going to stick by him, and I just love their relationship. I really do. I'm going to say it's right. I'm going to say right now, I love Jackson and Haley. I really do. It's taken me a while, but I really do love these two together. I think they're great together, and I just love how supportive she is of him. I really do love that. So Rebekah's spooked about her little mishap on Eva's body, and Elijah opens up the idea to letting Freya take a look. However, Klaus is very reluctant about this. First of all, he doesn't know if he can trust her. He doesn't know much about her. He doesn't even know if she's telling the truth, and I can understand Klaus's points there. Why should they ally with someone who they hardly even know? For all they know, she could be telling she could be just telling lies. I can understand that. So Vincent begins rattling on about his slumber and asks Cammy what Finn did while in his body, and Cammy tells him all the nasty and horrible things that went on, how Finn liked her and tried to get close to her, and she even talks about how Finn, killed his brother and all the crazy shit he did, and Cammy tells Vincent that whatever he's feeling, she's there to listen, and he isn't sure how to feel about any of it and is very hard on himself, and I actually really like that, because Finn, we're not used to that, so seeing this actor, also the actor that plays Finn and Vincent, amazing job, because he's playing such a different character. He's playing a much more quiet character, much more shy character. You can tell this guy is very quiet and very shy and doesn't really want to know much, and he's kind of worried as well, and it's understandable why. I mean, he's been asleep for 9 months, and someone else has been in possession of his body. You can understand why he's so paranoid and so petrified by what happened to him. It must have been a very hard experience for him to go through. I mean, why wouldn't it be? So Vincent asks Cammy if he hurt her, but she simply tells him that he didn't do anything, and the only thing he can do now is move on. And Freya reveals that she can help Rebekah with her problem. She will put Rebekah into a deep sleep, and by the way, I like what Cammy says to him, that, yeah, he should move on. I mean, he shouldn't be worried about what happened, because Finn didn't make any changes to him, and he needs to just move on with his life. And I like that Cammy said that, because that is really good advice there. So Freya reveals that she can help Rebekah with her problems. She will put Rebekah into a deep sleep to help her fight off Eva, because as we know, Freya is extremely powerful. She's more powerful than Davina, and I want to see these two meet. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most on this, on the show, is seeing Davina and Freya meet. It's going to be awesome to see, because those two are the most powerful witches right now, and I can't wait to see those two meet. So Klaus thinks that the whole thing seems too convenient for Freya, who tells Klaus that if he intends on facing Dahlia, that they will all need to stick together, which they really do. I mean, in a situation like that, you have to ally with some people you don't necessarily trust. Think about Davina and Klaus. She had to team up with Klaus to protect his child, to take down Esther, even though she really didn't want to, and that's really what you have to do in a situation like this, and I do agree with that. She begins telling everyone stories about singing to Elijah while he was in their mother's womb, and Klaus listens carefully to her stories, and he snaps her neck before she can finish, and hopes to have a proper family meeting. So he doesn't believe a word she says, and she now leaves lifeless on the floor, but both Elijah and Rebekah are scolding him, which is understandable. I mean, she was in the middle of the story, and he just, snapped her neck. I can understand his point, though. As I said, he doesn't really trust her, and he doesn't really know if she should be trusted, so... And she hasn't proven her trust yet. She hasn't shown them that she is sincere. So Klaus, this is all just a bunch of bullshit. So he makes a case that Freya is doing something he would do by playing with his siblings' emotions, and Rebekah and Elijah storm out in hopes that Klaus heads in the right direction. Because they're not really sure if he is thinking straight here. And meanwhile, Cammy and Vincent seem to be getting closer, and he opens up more about growing up in the quarter. And Vincent is comfortable with Cammy and asks her to bring Marcel back in so he can tell him something he needs to know about Eva. Because, he wants to know more about Eva, and now he knows information about Eva, and when he said them, okay, what is he going to tell him? Because clearly he was hiding something, and it's understandable why. I mean, he doesn't really know these people very well. So he's very, not very, he's not very open either, which I like, because again, Finn was very open, very conceited, very obnoxious, just completely different than Vincent, and it's great to see him play Vincent and not see him play Finn, because it's such a different role for him, and I love that. I really think that's awesome that they're doing that, and I think they're doing a great job with showing that. So, Freya awakens to an argument with Klaus on why he continues to denounce her as a sibling, because she wants him to trust her, and, she doesn't really understand why he's not trusting her, and he tells her that he suspects her of treachery, and gives her a chance to tell him why she's trying to worm her way into his family. It does seem kind of sudden. I do see his point there. Even though she wants to work with them, it does just seem kind of out of the blue. I mean, of course, the second that Finn was working with her, she just randomly pops up. It does make sense there. Freya tells Klaus the true reason why she hated Dahlia, and she spoke of a man named Mathis, and this I thought was really interesting. I'm wondering if this character might come onto the show at some point. There's this man that she loved named Mathis, and she loved him more than anyone, and she really he was her true love, and Dahlia allowed for him to love her, and Freya told Klaus that she had conceived a son for Mathis, and Dahlia condemned her to death, and Freya took Dahlia's strongest poison in hopes to die and rid herself of the pain she felt. The poison did not work, and this is just tragic here. You honestly feel really bad for her. And she realized that she had been the one to actually take her child's life as she survived. However, her baby didn't, because even though she had that thing where she couldn't die, and Dahlia then told her there's no escape for her, not even death, there's nothing she can do, and Dahlia will always come after her. And just, wow, I mean, I didn't expect Freya to be as vulnerable as she is, but wow, Freya is such a good character, and I love her character. Can we just make her a main character right now? Because I feel so bad for her, and I love her arc already. I love her they're taking it, and I feel so bad for her, but still, Klaus does not believe her, and it does seem, again, kind of just far-fetched and kind of just out of the blue, and it does seem like she's playing the victim card. I definitely see Klaus's point there. But at the same time, it's hard to not believe as well. I mean, you can see that she was suffering through this. You can see what she was going through. And Klaus reveals that he still feels as if the story's been told to manipulate him. And Freya tells him that Dahlia will rip through his family, and he will pay for it all. And she stands her ground with Klaus and urges him to rethink his alliances because she isn't going anywhere. And Vincent finally comes face-to-face with Rebekah, but he needs time to look into her eyes, and he reveals that Eva Sinclair was in fact his wife, whom he never thought he would see, and this I thought was very interesting. We find out that Eva Sinclair was his wife, and he never thought he'd see her again, and that's all we really find out in this episode, that his wife was Eva Sinclair, and he thought he'd never see her again. Why? We don't know yet, but it definitely is getting us closer to a big reveal that I'm definitely looking forward to. So Haley approaches Klaus to try and find common ground in giving Jackson power, and Klaus says he will never agree to give Jackson control over the wolves because he doesn't really trust Jackson, and Klaus tells her that there's only one person he trusts with his child's safety, and that's him. That's really the only person he trusts is himself, which is understandable because that's his child, and he doesn't really feel he should trust Jackson because, he feels Jackson just cares about Haley. I think Jackson does care about Hope, but definitely he cares about the wolves and Haley more. But I think definitely I think Jackson is legitimately a good father. I mean, we saw that last week that, yeah, he is a good father, but I don't know. So Klaus threatens anyone who tries to stand his way and reminds Haley that he is the one setting the course of safety. And I like that he said that to Haley because, again, Haley's so loyal to him, and I like Klaus's point. I do agree that Jackson might not be the best one to be the leader anymore. I mean, now that he's married Haley, now that they're together, now that they had sex, now they're just so close, it might not be the best idea for Jackson to be the alpha anymore. And I don't think it's that Klaus doesn't like him. I just think Klaus doesn't think that he's the best leader. And I definitely understand Klaus's point there. And if Klaus wants to appoint Aiden, I think that's honestly the best idea. I mean, Aiden understands the true severity of what's going on, the consequences of what could happen to Hope, while I don't think Jackson is as aware of that as he is more concerned about Haley. So, it's understandable. I can totally understand Klaus's point there. But there is some danger in Klaus's method of protecting his daughter, because it could render him without any alliances. It's also possible that everyone, even his siblings, may have to turn on him and keep him from making a decision that could put Hope's life in danger. So Vincent then meets with Cammy, who, after Marcel lets him for some air for once, Vincent agreed to help Rebekah, because, of course, he just revealed that small piece of information, and he says he wants nothing to do with Eva, because he knows nothing about her. He knows that she was his wife, and he never thought he'd see her again. And definitely was not good between them. Now, what I personally think happened is that they got into a fight or something, and Eva did something to him. I definitely feel like something caused their relationship to end. I definitely feel it has to do with Eva's possession. I definitely feel like that's part of it. So he also advised Cammy to stay away from the pack, to which she says they all do better if they are not alone. And I think that's good advice for Cammy, because Cammy's the only human on the show, remember. The only human. There is no other human on the show. Every other main character on the show is some sort of mythical being, and Cammy's not like that. So I think that actually was very good advice that Vincent gave her. And basically, Marcel escorts Rebekah back home, and this scene was just, I love it. I love what they're setting up, and if they want to get Marcel and Rebekah together, please do it, because I love this scene. He tells her that everything will be alright, and Rebekah's worried about what could happen, and realizes that she is weak and vulnerable for the first time in her life, and Marcel tells her it's okay to be scared, everyone is vulnerable, but not weak, and he tells her that out of all the Michelsons, Klaus is the best at being violent, and Elijah's the best at, talking about things, but she's the strongest, and I have to agree with this. She really is the strongest. I mean, Rebekah's never lost hope. Rebekah's never been in complete despair. Rebekah's never been like, I'm never going to get out of this. Rebekah's always been hopeful. She's always been strong, and I love that Marcel said that to her, because really, yeah, she is the strongest. I mean, she left town because she knew that she was causing problems, and she was strong because of that. It was a strong decision and hard decision she had to make, but that just proves how strong she really is, and I love that Marcel said that to her. They need to get these two to get back together now. I'm sorry. They need to get these two back together. When Rebekah goes back to her original body, these two better get together by the end of the season, because I really want Marcel and Rebekah together. I love what they're setting up, and I think that definitely they need to get together. And I understand, I understand people are going to be like, oh my god, they want to get everyone in a relationship, but honestly, they've been in a relationship before, and they truly love each other, and of course, Haley brought up the possibility to her, so I definitely feel like they're going to try to explore it now, and I'm all for that. If they want to explore it, go ahead, I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea if they want to explore it. So, Rebekah's kind of worried. So, basically, he assures her that all of the Michelsons, I just said that. So, he leads her to retrieve a drink, but in his absence, she has another memory flash and asks Marcel to stay to keep an eye on her, because she really does not trust herself. And then we get to the final scene of this episode, which this was legitimately creepy. The place Rebekah found herself in is holding many young witches captive, including Davina. So, Davina is now under this witch's captive power, and we now, definitely the only person I think can rescue Davina is Freya, because Freya is more powerful than her, and again, I'm looking forward to seeing these two meet, and if Freya ends up meeting her by rescuing her, that could be awesome. I honestly want to see that happen. I want to see Freya rescue Davina, and I want to see these two meet, because those two combined together, we are in for just awesomeness, and that's going to be amazing to see. If she rescues Davina, oh my god, I can't wait for that. So Klaus visits Elijah at his new home and tells him that he was moved, and Elijah knows that Klaus' position has not changed on having Freya control the plans, and he does, however, believe that she could be of much help to them otherwise, and I have to agree with him that she is a lot of help to them, and Elijah says they need to have every bit of help because Dahlia is coming, and they don't know when, but then we see at the end of the episode that this woman, supposedly Dahlia, she hums this haunting song, suddenly Hope's toy turns out as if a ghost has done it, and that's how the episode ends. And that was really creepy. What a fantastic episode. Wow, I love this episode, as usual. I always love the originals, but this episode, I loved it. And I'm going to talk about a couple of reasons why I thought this episode was great. First of all, let's talk about Freya. Freya, I think they need to ally with. I mean, she is very powerful. We can clearly see she's gone through a lot, and I think that if they want to ally with her, they need to. I know Klaus is kind of skeptical about working with her, but it honestly is to their advantage if they do end up working with her. It's the best thing for them to do. It's the best idea that they could do, and it's probably the only way they can beat Dahlia, because I don't see any other way to beat Dahlia. Dahlia is the most powerful thing they've ever dealt with. Dahlia is the probably the strongest villain they've ever dealt with, and she's more powerful than all of them. The only person that I can feel take them down is Freya and Davina, and the only way this can happen, which I hope this happens, is if Freya and Davina start their own alliance to take down Rebekah, and all those witches that are captive, maybe Freya will rescue them and Davina, and they'll team up and, get all the witches to go ally against Dahlia, which is going to be awesome to see, and I really hope that does happen. Now, as far as Rebekah and Marcel go, these two need to get together, as I said. They need to get together, and also, I want to find out more about Vincent and Eva. I want to find out more about why Vincent and Eva, what happened to them. I definitely feel that is connected to Eva, being possessed and killing people and things like that. I want to find out more about that, because I think that's very interesting, and we need to find out more about that. That definitely, I love that plot, and I think it's really interesting. Now, Jackson and Haley. Haley has a big decision to make. Haley needs to decide, do I want to ally with Jackson? Do I still trust him? Is he the best person to work with? I mean, she really has a lot to think about here, and I think that she is going to make a good decision overall. She just has to decide what should she really do, and me personally, I feel that Haley should trust him. Definitely, it's the best thing to do is to trust Jackson, But I just don't think he's the best leader. I think Aiden definitely is a better leader. He's more aware of what's going on and definitely knows a lot more about the consequences of what could happen. And it's not that Jackson doesn't, it's just that Jackson's more focused on maintaining a relationship with Haley. That's really what it's all about. Now, Matthias. I'm wondering if we're going to meet Matthias, because I think if we meet Matthias, that could be really interesting as well, because Freya could use that against Dahlia. And I kind of feel like the only way to kill Dahlia would be sort of like heartbreak, but Dahlia doesn't appear to have a heart. She doesn't seem to have one. She doesn't seem to have limits either, so I don't know what's going to happen there. But wow, I mean, it was brutal to find out more about Freya, and I love finding out more about Freya. I thought it was amazing to see, and I love that. And I think the only thing I'll talk about is, of course, Klaus. Klaus needs to decide really what he wants to do here with Freya. Is he going to ally with them? We'll see what happens there. Cammy, I kind of like Vincent's advice to Cammy that she needs to stay away from all this, but Cammy tried that. If you remember, she broke up with Marcel because she wanted to distance herself from all of the crazy creature stuff, but you really can't. In this town, the only way to do is to get out of there, which I don't see Cammy leaving. I don't plan on seeing Cammy leaving, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Cammy's going to stay there. Do I think she should listen to his advice? Yeah, I think he's giving her very good advice. It's just that, again, Vincent's kind of unaware of what's really going on in this town because he's been, again, you know, asleep for like 9 months. So he's kind of just unaware of what's really going on there, and I think that's really interesting as well. But overall, guys, as usual, a fantastic episode. I always love the originals. It's still my favorite show on Mondays, I have to say. Out of the originals, Bates Motel and Better Call Saul, original is still my favorite. I'm not kidding you guys. I think it's better than Bates Motel. It really is. And speaking of Bates Motel, it is my next review, and I'll see you guys for that. Let me know what you guys saw this episode, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.